Welcome, everyone, to the Instrument Closet Podcast. I'm your host, Morgan Phillippee, your local mass communications major, asking the students, staff, and alumni of the East Central University Band Program about their life and time in the world of music. Today, the podcast is featuring Dayna Dawson, the principal flute of the East Central University Wind Ensemble. Dayna is a music performance major from Ardmore, Oklahoma, and is part of the ECU Wind Ensemble, Jazz Band, and Flute Ensemble. A homeschooler, Dayna took part in the Oklahoma Homeschool Band Wind Ensemble and Jazz Band, as well as participating in various honor bands in the state of Oklahoma. She has also performed with the Ardmore Little Theater's Pit Orchestra and the National Flute Association's Jazz Flute Big Band. Dayna is currently a member of the Oklahoma Flute Society, the National Flute Association, and the North American Saxophone Alliance. Welcome to the show, Dayna. How are you doing today?
I'm good.
Facts. All right, we have to start off with the penultimate question of every single podcast. Why did you pick music as your major?
It's really funny. I was in my flute lesson 2 weeks ago, and Dr. Agede asked me kind of the same question, and I was like, I don't know. And she was like, Dayna, you need to figure that out. And so I'm in the middle of figuring that out.
Honestly, that is that is fair. That is fair. So, you were homeschooled, correct?
Yes.
So what was it like transitioning from homeschool orchestras or homeschool bands into public school bands when you came to college?
It was actually a lot easier, I think, than most people expected, especially because whenever I started, it was 2020. COVID was happening. Yeah. So everything was kind of split online. So it was actually a really smooth entrance for me to go from, doing everything on my own basically to half and half. So every other day I'd be in a class, which I had never been in a class before except for taking the ACT. That was the first time I'd ever sat in a classroom. But it was a smooth entrance because I'd be in a class one day and then the next day it would be all online work. So that was really comfortable for me. And then again, the next day I'm in a classroom again. And so it just kind of went back and forth like that. It made it really smooth, I think. And I'm used to it now, of course.
Yeah. So what was the Oklahoma homeschool band for Wind Ensemble like?
We had a really good run for a long time, actually. My class specifically, whenever I was in high school and I was in there, we had some incredible musicians because, William was in there at the same time as me. Aubrey was in there. Micah was in there. We had a really solid clarinet section. My sister was in there. We had an amazing trumpet section also. One of the guys that was there actually is in Harvard now.
Nice.
Performing there, so he's really good. I don't know. It was really solid. We were a good group.
All right. So, why flute out of all the woodwind instruments?
Because it's hard. I ask myself that same question every day because, now I'm paying for it. I started on saxophone, actually. When I was 8 years old, I started on saxophone, and it was easy. It was so easy for me. And then I picked up flute, and it was hard, and I could not play it at all, actually. I could not make a sound for literal weeks.
Wow.
And I used to cry while practicing because my sister would be like, you stink! Literally, shut up! She's like, give up! And I'm like, so I would hide behind my stand, and I'd be crying while I was practicing occasionally. So it was really hard, but I guess I liked the challenge because saxophone always has, and kind of still does, come really easily for me. Because I picked saxophone back up later in high school because I kind of dropped it while I was focusing on flute. And then now I'm taking saxophone lessons again in college. And it like I said, it's coming easier for me. Playing in that kind of style is easier for me. Playing with emotion is easier for me on saxophone even. I almost feel like maybe I should have chosen saxophone. But then there's always that allure, that kind of draw to flute of I can't do this on it. I can't do that on it. And I get bored really easily. I get bored really easily, and so I need a challenge. And flute kind of has been that for 12 years now.
Nice.
Flute is my challenge.
So you play saxophone for the jazz band, right?
Yes.
So what's it like whenever you're jazz band and wind ensemble on the same days transitioning from saxophone to flute?
It was really hard, actually, for a long time. I'm getting better at it, but just the way saxophone and flute work, the embouchure is very different, and saxophone actually makes my lips swell. And
Wow.
as you can see, I don't have the biggest lips. And so I play flute with small lips. And then whenever I play saxophone, it makes my lips swell. And then I try to play flute, and it's like everything's different. And I feel like I've never played flute before in my life. And it was terrible for like 2 years. And then I would go to my lesson with Dr. Ageta, and it'd be like, look, I cannot play flute like at all. It's like I've never. Anyway, but we figured it out because Dr. Berman obviously has experienced the same thing.
Mm-hmm.
And so they've both been helping me a lot. And now I kind of pretend like it doesn't change anything. And sometimes faking it is all you need to do.
That facts.
And I'm taking voice lessons right now with Dr. Baggage.
Oh, okay.
I have asthma, and she said, sing like you don't have asthma. And so I've been singing like I don't have asthma. And so now I can sing. And then, and so I've been taking that same mentality into, I practice saxophone, and then I go to play flute, and I can't play flute. And I'm going to play flute like you did and just play saxophone.
Yeah.
And it's like a mind game. It tricks me, but it works.
That is very true. I definitely feel like switching instruments is a lot of like just mind games for the most part.
And there were a lot of physical barriers really for a long time, but it's getting easier.
Yeah. So how on earth did you get into the National Flute Association? Curious about that.
Anyone could be a member. You just have to pay member dues and everything. But the Jazz Flute Big Band that I was a part of, it was actually a competition, and Dr. Ageta and Dr. Berman helped me record my audition for it, and I was the youngest person selected
Wow.
to participate in that, so that was pretty cool. It was my first time, oh my goodness, it was my first time going to the national convention in Phoenix, Arizona.
Dang.
It was my first time on an airplane. It was my first time, I don't know if I should say this, in an English pub. I don't drink. But it was cool. It was cool. And I love hanging out with Dr. Ageta and Dr. Berman, and I don't even care if that makes me a nerd, because I love hanging out with my teachers. I felt like I became friends with them on that trip. And they were so nice to me. I don't know. It was great. It was so cool. And oh my goodness, I was surrounded by insanely good jazz flutists. Insanely good. And I'm like, how did I get into this? Why am I sitting here with the rest of these people? It was mega imposter syndrome, because I'm like, I don't know. I don't know how I got in, but it was awesome.
Honestly, that sounds like a really fun experience.
It was. It was. Oh, no. I won't get into that. I was harassed by an old man there, but other than that,
Dang.
it was scary. But other than that, it was really awesome.
So, of course, you're the principal flute player of the Wind Ensemble. So when it comes to solos, what's your mindset when you prepare the solo and you play the solo in the band?
I think for me, I have to relax. I have to let go. I like to take a nice not even deep breath necessarily, because I tend to tense up if I try to take a really deep breath. I'm like and then that's really bad. So I have to take a relaxed, just casual, nothing's happening, that kind of breath, whatever. And then I have to just relax my entire body, because if not, I get that really pinched sound, and I'm sure you've heard me actually in an ensemble. Even just yesterday, the beginning of Hypnotic.
Man, Myers was not holding back. He was like, what was that?
Don't get me started. I was tired. I don't know. He's like, you missed 5 notes. I'm like, where? Where? I cracked one. I missed one entrance. Don't get me started on that last note for the piccolo. Don't get me started on that. I'm not a piccolo player.
And it's crazy because he makes you guys play piccolo for marching band.
Yeah, it's different in marching band. I don't have to sound good because...
That's true. You just gotta sound loud.
Yes, I just have to be loud. And that's pretty easy. But for solos, yeah, it's just relax. Sometimes I like to, if it's a solo performance, not necessarily in wind ensemble, my biggest thing is smile. When you go onto stage, it tricks the audience and it tricks you.
True.
Into being like, I love this. In fact, last year at the solo competition, like everyone was so tense and it was so stressed and everyone was like, ah! And then I was about to go on stage and I was like, wait. I was like, oh my goodness, we love doing this. Mm-hmm. I'm like looking at Libby, she just performed. It was beautiful. I was like, she loves music.
Yeah.
And then Jaden just performed. I'm like, oh my goodness, he loves music. Mm-hmm. And Hannah performed. I'm like, I love music.
Yeah.
And so I was like, wait, we're just all here because we love music and we're enjoying playing music.
Facts.
And so I like took that right before I went on stage. And I was like, oh my goodness, I love music. And I stepped on stage and I was smiling ear to ear. I'm telling the audience, I love music through my smile, right? And I look at Rudy, who's accompanying me, and I'm like, we love music. We're about to show this audience how much we love music. And so I smile, I trick my brain. Yeah. I trick the audience. We love music. We're all here sharing our love of music. And then I performed, and it was easy, almost. Then it just felt like happy. It felt like a good thing rather than like a stressful kind of thing. It was just... we love music, and so we're doing it, and we're happy doing it. Mm-hmm. And it doesn't have to be perfect. Yeah. We're doing it for the love of it, so.
Absolutely. I love that mindset. That's honestly a really nice mindset to have for solos. I feel like not a lot of people have that mindset because they're so panicky about getting everything right that they don't, feel the flow of the music.
And then you, and I'm taking sports psychology right now.
Interesting.
It is interesting, and so much of it relates to performance, even in the music world, and so I guess maybe I'm drawing from that also right now.
Yeah. Huh. What a thought. So, out of playing in wind ensemble, jazz band, pit orchestra, flute ensemble, which one do you prefer?
It depends. I love jazz band. I love jazz band. I love the people in jazz band. I love the vibe of jazz band. It's collaborative and it's so creative. I think it's honestly one of the most creative things I'm allowed to do here at East Central because Dr. Berman encourages us to think outside the box and try new things, and he actually wants to call it a lab band because we're experimenting, and I love it, and it's so freeing actually. And then it also has taught me again to let go. I'm a very perfectionistic person, I suppose. And so in jazz band, I play a note and it sounds bad. I'm like, oh, it's terrible. And he's like, no, it was different. Okay. And so, I don't know. It's been really good for me. So I guess I'll have to say jazz band for right now. But I'm not good at choosing favorites with anything.
Dr. Berman, what was it? Last semester had all of you guys create your own pieces?
Yeah.
What was that like?
It was really fun, actually. And I think, obviously, you can create a piece whenever. You can compose whenever. Mm-hmm. But to be able to compose something and then have it played for you by a live band and then, seeing what works and seeing what doesn't work is a lot different because then I was like, oh, I need to change that. Or oh, that didn't work. Because the piece that I ended up writing, I intended it. I intended it as, a old-style jazz, Dixieland band almost. Really upbeat. It's got that vibe. Mm-hmm. And then we played it, and it was not working. Oh, at all. And I was like, oh, my goodness. And so he's like, okay, let's try some new styles. And then we settled on, rock. So we were playing it as, a rock tune in jazz band. And it worked. And, with the group, just, I don't know. I actually really liked the way it turned out.
That is very interesting to change it from Dixieland style to rock. That's a 180.
Yeah, when I was composing it, it worked, Dixieland, and then I got it with the group, and it absolutely did not. And I don't know why, but it worked as a rock tune.
Interesting. So far, what has been your favorite performance?
Like I said, I'm really bad about favorites. Even when I was a kid, I couldn't choose a favorite animal or a favorite color because, I don't know. I'm like, what if I don't know all the animals yet? What if I don't know all the colors yet? What if I meet a new color and that's my favorite? So, I don't know. I feel like I haven't met my favorite performance yet. Fingers crossed it'll be my senior recital.
So when is your senior recital and what's it going to be all about?
It's on April 27th. And there are a lot of differing pieces, I would say. Because obviously we've got Baroque. Mm-hmm. I'm doing avant-garde. It's called Lookout. It's a really cool piece. Ooh. So you guys should come hear that. Just a subtle plug. And then I'm playing the Prokofiev Sonata, and I'm doing a flute trio, actually, with Dr. Aguirre and Dr. Berman that I'm really excited about.
Interesting.
Because they're both obviously fantastic flutists. I've never gotten to play with just us three like that. It's going to be pretty cool.
I don't think I've ever seen Dr. Berman perform on flute before. I think I've only seen him perform on clarinet and saxophone.
Oh, he's incredible. He's incredible.
Interesting. I suppose I'll have to go to the senior recital and find out.
Yeah. Absolutely. Another plug. Come here, Dr. Berman, play.
So, have you ever had, like, a solo or, like, just a general performance that just went down the gutter, burst into flames? And if so, how did you recover from it, or what did you learn from it?
That's an interesting question. I wouldn't say I've had one that absolutely was just garbage. I think my mindset was probably the garbage, because I've come out of performances thinking, you know, that was garbage. But then you hear recording back and you're like, okay, it wasn't all garbage. There were bits of garbage in it, but it wasn't all garbage. And I think my biggest problem is my mindset and how critical I am of myself when I'm performing and when things go wrong. Side note, whenever I was a kid and I was playing with the homeschool bands, my flute did actually fall apart in the middle of the performance, and it clanged. No. The keys fell off onto the floor like tink, and I was like, I just picked them up and I just faked it for the rest of the time. Oh my goodness, I just realized. Happened again with my saxophone.
No way!
I had a saxophone solo coming up. I was also playing flute at the time, and I had the saxophone on the stand, and I like moved it a little bit and it fell off, broke, stood up, played my stupid solo. I could not play a majority of the notes. Hey, it worked out. I got compliments afterwards. Then I cried. So I think maybe those were the most garbage. But just mindset-wise, I don't know. Sometimes I have a really hard time getting musical direction in a performance, especially on flute. Like I said, flute is my struggle. Even though it is my main instrument, it is the bane of my existence. And so I think some of the hardest ones was when I would play in studio class and I would get criticism after criticism after criticism, and it's like not a single good thing could be said about it from anyone. And like not even from me, and I'm thinking like, oh, it's not just me that thought that, it's everybody in the class. They also heard it and they're telling me how bad it was, essentially. And so I would leave and it would just like wreck me. I haven't performed in studio class yet this semester, so we'll see how that goes.
So going back to saxophone, have you played all four of the main saxophones, soprano down to bari?
I have, yeah.
So what's like the most fun out of each one of those saxophones that you have in terms of like playing it or like the music that goes with it?
Personally, I prefer alto. Just stylistically, it's easier for me. And I do love playing lead alto, I have to say. I've been having a lot of fun with that recently. Soprano was fun, though. But I played it more in a classical setting than I did in jazz. I don't know. It's kind of honky, but I don't know. I like it. Tenor has never been my thing. I don't know why. I just can't get the tone. I don't know what it is. Tenor hasn't been my thing. Bari, I only played bari for a small portion of time. Yeah. And I don't feel qualified to speak on that. It was in high school, so I wasn't fantastic at that. But I did have fun.
Yeah, that's what matters. You have fun.
But I still prefer alto, I think.
Yeah. So, what made you pick ECU out of all the colleges in Oklahoma to go to?
You know, it's really funny. I did not know that this place existed for my entire life. And so whenever I started looking at colleges, I was looking at like OBU, SNU, just the ones that I had heard of, I guess.
Yeah.
And I had never come across this one. And it is literally an hour and 15 minutes from where I grew up. And I never heard of it once. And then my high school flute teacher, she graduated from here. for her undergraduate degree. And so she was like, oh my goodness, you should go check this place out. I hear they have fantastic scholarship opportunities. She's like, whenever I went there, I got a full ride flute scholarship. It's a little brag. Anyway, so she actually was the one who introduced me to it. She brought me here to audition. So that's basically it. It was cheap. Yep. It was close to home. Those were my two big things. I got a scholarship.
Facts. We do love scholarships here.
And I did. I wanted to be close to home, and this was the closest option for me.
Yeah. So out of all the music courses you've taken at ECU, like, which ones did you enjoy? Which ones did you just could care less about? Which ones did you utterly despise, if there are any?
For music courses?
Mm-hmm. For music courses.
I actually enjoyed all of them, I have to say. Gen Eds, not so much. But my music courses, honestly, they're what keeps me going here. And I don't mind Gen Eds, actually, sometimes. Sometimes. I don't know, I've never hated a music class, and I love learning, actually, especially about things that I care about. Mm-hmm. And so learning about music to me has been fun. And especially, it depends on who's teaching, also.
True.
There are some teachers here that I'm like, it does not matter if we are learning, like, I don't have a good example, so I'm just going to say Gregorian chant. I'm going to have fun if that teacher is the teacher that's, like, cool and funny.
Yeah.
I don't care what we're learning. And certain teachers, oh my goodness, you learn so much about just, like, the stupidest little things even. But it changes your life. It really does. Yeah. Like, Dr. Baggage comes to mind. She, like I said, I'm getting voice lessons right now, and I feel like, oh my goodness, I'm learning so much, and I don't know how she does it. She's really funny too, so I'm enjoying that.
So, post-college, I know it's coming up for you. Are you thinking... Are you thinking, like, career path-wise, are you thinking about going into, like, Philharmonics? Are you thinking about doing, like, music pedagogy, teaching career, question mark?
You know, we will see. I've never been good at making plans. I mean, as you might know, I am engaged.
Yeah, we do love that here.
And I have not been planning my wedding very much, or very well, or very fast. And my poor sister has basically done everything. So she's the planner. I kind of just go with the flow. You know, if I graduate and I get a job doing any one of those things, I'll be happy to do it. Yeah. It's terrible. I know, I've been told it's terrible. But it seemed to work out. I didn't plan to go to college, and look, here I am, graduating in a few months. So, things work out.
I mean, honestly, I feel like that if you try to plan ahead, like, you'll be disappointed if, like, things don't work out.
Yes, because things never work out the way you plan.
Yeah.
So if you plan it, I don't know, it's disappointment, so I don't plan it. I just go with the flow. And the flow has brought me good things thus far.
So, I mean, you've been to Arizona. Are there, like, any states that you've been to for flute stuff or saxophone stuff or, like, jazz or anything music related?
I don't think so, other than Arizona so far.
Interesting. Is there, like, a state that you would like to go to for music stuff that's not Oklahoma or Arizona?
I don't know. I'm not, like I said, I like being close to home, so I don't plan to live far away.
Yeah.
We'll see. I don't mind visiting.
Yeah.
I would like to go to South America, I think.
Ooh, South America would be fun.
The flute scene in South America.
Yes.
It's incredible.
Absolutely.
They're just so fun. They know how to have fun.
Yeah.
At the National Flute Convention, there were so many, like, Cuban and South American flutists. They know how to party. They were awesome. I feel like Americans maybe don't get that so much. We're kind of stale.
I mean, you're not entirely wrong, I suppose.
Yeah, we're like, we're gonna do it by the book, and we're not gonna have fun. You can't smile, but they were partying while they were performing. It was crazy. Like, oh my goodness. I don't know.
So, would you argue that, like, being more in tune with the music and stuff like the metronome is the way to go in terms of, like, just playing in general, for the most part? Really solo-wise. I mean, ensembles is a whole other basket case.
Right. So I think for avant-garde music, it's really important. Mm-hmm. Whenever you are playing, or even just a solo piece, it is important because you have to tell that story on your own.
Yeah.
And you also have a lot more freedoms and liberties to tell that story in the way you want to, rather than if you're playing, even with just piano, there's rules. And you have to work with this other person and get things together. So I think, yeah, in solo stuff,